What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to y'all with a quick video. We're gonna talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, the defending NBA champions of last year, coming into this year with the hopes of repeating and winning another one. LeBron James is having an MVP caliber year, and Anthony Davis was having a defensive player of the year caliber season before he went down a couple weeks ago. Obviously, this team has a lot of talent. They was the favorites coming into this season to be the champions. Obviously, Brooklyn has something to say about that with the moves they have made. But one thing that have caught my eye is if Andre Drummond gets bought out, which is good for the Lakers because one, you don't have enough to trade for him. Two, his contract will be too expensive. And three, when you look at the competition right now, you do have to make another move if you want to become the best team in the league now. Because I look at the Lakers, they're in the conversation, but this move will make them back at the top. Just because Drummond is a significant upgrade over Marc Gasol at this point of his career. He doesn't space the floor as well. He doesn't fit the greatest in that regard. But that's why you just have lineup switch out because you have guys like Montrezl Harrell and other guys like Anthony Davis that can play center, play power forward, and you just plug and play them wherever you need to go. This is a way better fit because one, you're not paying them as much money. Two, you're not giving up significant assets. And three, this guy is a starter. This guy is a legitimate NBA center. Not the greatest defender, not the greatest offensive player, but has the hustle and the heart that you can't really teach. You have to want it and you have to have it in you. And he does. But I didn't really like the Mavericks doing it because they have to do a long term commitment. I didn't like the Mavericks doing it because they have to give up assets and he doesn't put them over the hump. Let's be honest, the Lakers, even if they add Andre Drummond or not, they're probably still the favorites to come out the West if healthy. That's the reality of it. And you look at the Nets, that's a team that people look at the center position as a weakness where can you rely on DeAndre Jordan to defend at an elite level? He hasn't done that in years. Can he stop Drummond for eating them up at the glass and being active and setting screens and doing handoffs? Or even just, putting effort offensively on a rebounding end. And that's a question that a lot of us has asked for the Nets. If they had a weak spot, it would be the center position. And the Lakers, with the versatility of having multiple guys that can play that position and can go big if they choose to, that just adds a huge, slice that we just didn't see from the Lakers because Montrez has not had the season that people thought that he would. And Marc Gasol hasn't been the Marc Gasol that people wanted him to be. I didn't believe he was going to be old Marc Gasol because he was the older Marc Gasol. But he has been solid and hasn't been terrible. But Andre Drummond for basically $2-3 million or less, and you're just giving up a roster spot for a guy that's giving you 17 and double digit boards, and that's it. Who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't pick up Andre Drummond for that? And that's basically what the question is. Should the Lakers pick up Andre Drummond? Would that be a smart decision? Of course. Because look at what you're doing. You're doing literally nothing. You're giving up a bench spot for a starter and just plugging them in. That's it. That's literally all that you're doing. And it will make the Lakers tough just because this is an acquisition that makes them better and they're not losing anything significant at all to get him. And I think that that's something that blows your mind if Andre Drummond basically doesn't get traded, which I honestly believe they wouldn't get much anyway because when he got traded to Cleveland, they didn't really give up anything. I really believe that Andre Drummond was brought to Cleveland for pennies. And I don't believe that they gave up that much money for Jared Allen. I mean, gave up that much for Jared Allen. They didn't really give up nothing significant for him either. Centers are just, if you can't shoot and you can't space the floor, you're not as valuable as, as a commodity in this league. You're just not. And Jared Allen and Drummond are not shooters. They're not. They're hustle guys. They're mobile, athletic guys that can cover space. And honestly and truthfully, that's just a role now. Being versatile like Marcus Gasol is what guys want to play with, and it makes guys' job easier because they have more space to operate with their handling, being able to break down the defense easier, and having a guy that they can always bail out, which means dump it off or kick it out to, just makes their job a lot easier too. But guys like Drummond are still necessary to the league. They're still important, especially depending on what players you build around and what players you have. And he still will be a valuable asset if he's picked up for basically nothing. The question is, do the Cavaliers want to buy him out? Or do they want to try to get a second round pick or something? Because somebody's going to have to eat that salary just to get him traded to that place. And if Drummond is getting traded, he is a free agent. Do you really want to give up an asset and he not get you over the hump? And I think that's something that people misconstrued yesterday. If you trade for Drummond and you have no ambition to re-sign him, or you don't have cap to re-sign him, or he's not the guy that gets you over the hump, and then you lose him, then what was the whole point of getting him? The Lakers are getting him for nothing, and that's genius. That's totally different than what the Mavericks are doing. They're giving up an asset, and honestly, they can't afford to keep him because one, he doesn't make them a championship contender. Two, he doesn't make them even one of the top three teams in the Western Conference. And three, if they give up an asset and lose him, they got worse because one, they can't replace him because he's gone in free agency, and two, they gave up assets to get him and he's not long term. And three, if they do give up the assets, then you have to pay the man. And he's just not the guy that's the missing piece for that team. So if I look at this is a no brainer. If you Rob Pelinka, get this done if it happens. I don't have no problem with this. Obviously, people will be mad because it's the Lakers getting an all-star caliber guy at his position for basically nothing, which will be legit. But honestly, it's mutual. Andre Drummond wants to play for a championship contender, and the Lakers are trying to increase their chances of winning the title. And this is what LeBron has been doing for years. When you have him on his team, LeBron wants to win as many titles as he can before he retires. And that's just how it's been for basically 10 years almost, if not more. And you can't really blame him. He has a short window. And with him signing this extension and Anthony Davis signing this extension, this will make them, significantly better. And it is a good trump card on the Nets to a certain extent. So I would say definitely do this. I would say get this done if I'm Rob Pelinka and the Lakers. Obviously, this is something that I wouldn't expected coming into the season. But now that Drummond wants out and the Cavaliers don't really plan on re-signing and keeping him, which to me really was no point of getting him in the first place. People said it made kind of sense because it makes them better. But you look at the season that they have had, and they're one of the worst teams in the league again. It kind of was pointless because it didn't make them significantly better. It didn't make them a playoff team. And it basically got them to where they already was. And that's why I feel like the Mavericks shouldn't do it. But I can see him being a difference maker for a team like the Lakers. And I can see them definitely doing this because this is just common sense to me. But for the other teams, be cautious. Drummond does want some type of commitment. Be cautious. Drummond does want to be paid. Just to be put that out there. And if you don't want to do that, or you don't want to give up assets because you don't think he's going to be a significantly different maker, just like he wasn't for the Cavaliers, then you know what? Stay pat. Go on a free agency, find somebody else, or draft a guy that you feel like can be that in the future. That's the smart thing to do. Saves your money, saves your cap space, And, maybe you can even have somebody better in the future, depending on what team you are. Other than that, Quinn Wade, basketball analysis, I'm going. Be back to y'all in another video tomorrow.